2014, you stupid fucking dinosaur! Get the fuck out of here!
Man, Nikki Minaj can be so mean sometimes, but what's not going to be mean is the rest of this video. My name is Rafflecopter, and we're going to be finishing up our melee hunter build. So let's just jump right into it like I normally do. Like I normally do with these finales. I'm going to scroll through the entire talent book real quick, and then I'm going to go back and talk about it. So for anyone just interested in what abilities and talents I ended up picking, you can pause the video on any one of these perks and you'll be able just to copy the build. For those of you more interested in why I picked what and kind of further discussion on any of those topics, you're definitely welcome to stay around, and I'm going to go over that in a bit. So the average build, so whenever I'm making one of these builds, I try to strive for around 3k DPS, and that could either be on single target, that could be on AoE. This build, I haven't been able to get there quite yet. I don't want to spend another 5 videos trying to figure it out, but full honesty, I haven't been able to get this build to 3000 DPS. I've gotten some good DPS. I've gotten 2000, the highest that I personally have seen consistent, but I haven't been able to get to that 3000 mark. A lot of that is definitely going to be from the gear. I have not geared as well as I have in some of the previous videos. I just didn't really have time. I did try to do some battlegrounds, so I have that going to be playing in the background as well, but of course, with Battlegrounds, we're going to run into the same issue to where I don't have great gear, so it's not going to be very impressive to look at, unfortunately. But I am happy with how the build came out. I'm very happy with the general play style. Now, will it need some tweaking in the future? Definitely. Could this particular legendary enchant Deadly Bite use a buff? Probably as well. But we're gonna jump right into it. So before I go any further with the talents, I'm actually going to talk about the enchant. So right now I am running the Deadly Bite enchant, as I've talked about multiple times. Going to be applying a bleed effect and increasing the damage from our raptor strike depending on how many times we stack that bleed. Now with this enchant in mind, I was thinking, hey, maybe we want to do more of a bleed based build. So I went into Blades of Blood. For 3 seconds after using your charge ability, your Whirlwind ability will apply your Rend. So we have both of those. Whirlwind for the additional help in the AoE front, and the Rend just for another bleed. Last time I talked about potentially going Explosive Shot. The legendary enchant, rewind. The enchant I was talking about that would have worked really well with this build and Explosive Shot is actually a legendary enchant. I don't remember it being one. I'm not sure if that changed episode 1 to now. If it did, that sucks. But we couldn't go to the Explosive Shot. It has a range minimum. So melee range, you can't use Explosive Shot, which is obviously where we're going to be most of the time. In some cases, we can still get the Explosive Shot off before we start the fight, but we're just not going to be able to make great use of it. So maybe the Explosive Shot, even with that handicap, is going to be more damage, but I haven't gone it for this build for that reason. Now, we also have Wild Aggression. Dealing damage with Mongoose Bite restores 20 energy. If this puts you at full energy, the damage of your next rogue ability is increased by 20%, or 10% of the player is a target. Just again, more synergy with our rogue side of the build, so we have additional melee damage, and the hunter side of the build using the Mongoose Bite and the Raptor Strike. So the third epic enchant I have right now is going to be Blood Rain. Your Storm Strike increases the damage dealt by your bleeds on the target by 15%. We got Storm Strike just for this epic enchant, so that's all I got. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The bleed, increasing our bleed damage by 15% is definitely nothing to wave a finger at, and you can definitely tell in the DPS meter when we have Blood Rain up. So yeah, it's good. Jumping right into our talent tree and abilities, of course we have Tame Beast. We also ended up picking up Beast Mastery, so our beast is going to be dealing a bit more damage. We also have Aspect of the Cheetah, Aspect of the Beast, and Kill Command. Now since we have Beast Mastery, I'm going to throw the talents for the pet on the screen real quick. We've done a more in-depth, I would say, build on the pet side, so I'm not really going to talk about any of these. I don't know if these are even optimal. I should have reviewed the last video, but this is what I currently have on the pet side. I am using a Savannah Brawler still. Probably better to get a higher level pet. I don't know if the claw ability scales. I would believe it does, but there might be better pet damage out there. So back in the talent tree in the marksmanship side, we do have True Shot Aura. We've talked about this in the past. It's just flat attack damage, really nothing too crazy there. We did pick up the Deterrence and the Feign Death. Just, you know, I feel like signature hunter abilities, so you kind of need them. They do really good in PvP, of course. Really happy to have that type of survivability, so no complaints there. Then we still have the Explosive Shot. We still have the Immolation Trap. And again, really nothing changed on the ability size. I am really happy with these. There is a epic enchant that may be better than some of the ones I'm running currently that actually make Wing Clip a damaging ability instead of a slow. And that Wing Clip ability will reduce the cast time of Mongoose Strike. Or not the cast time, I'm sorry. The cooldown. So if you get the epic enchant of Wing Clip, it will reduce the cooldown of Mongoose Bite, allowing you to get more Mongoose Bites off, allowing you to get more, you know, Raptor Strikes off, hypothetically, and then more bleeds, and it should be a compounding effect. I didn't go that epic enchant only because I would have to rework half the build, because at that point we'd get rid of Hemorrhage. Well, if we're getting rid of Hemorrhage, do we want to keep some of the other bleeds we have, because we're going to have less ways to benefit from them. I also like having a slow for PvP. I know there's multiple options for a slow, so not really super attached to that idea, but it just something I wanted to throw out there. Might be more damage than the Hemorrhage. I haven't tried it, but if you do, definitely let me know. Now in the survivalist or the survival talent tree, we got survivalist. We talked about this one last time. It's just a good stat bonus, and since we're already running that deterrent, it's gonna make that ability even better. Then we have Hunter versus Wild, which we recently picked up. Increases your attack power and range attack power equal to 20% of your total stamina. Also increases the damage of your tame pet by 6%. A lot of things that we already want. We're already going to be running a lot of stamina. We're already going to be using a tame pet, so the increased damage on the tame pet side is great. We have Killer Instinct. We have had Killer Instinct for a while. Not really going to go into that again. I just wanted to point it out as kind of a key player in the build. Of course, counterattack is needed for part of the legendary enchant, so we picked that up. Resourcefulness we've picked up in the last video as well, along with exposed weakness, so nothing really new. I don't think I would change any of these. These are both pretty good abilities. Again, my main takeaway from this is, if I were to do this build a second time, I want to try the epic Wing Clip ability I talked about, and maybe invest more in explosive shot and trying to make that work. I mean, when it had the minimum range requirement, I gave up on it right away, but could I have gone back and tried to make it work more? I could have. So that being said, I'm still happy with the build. I just wanted to keep it melee hunter, and having an ability you couldn't use in melee felt kind of like a slap in the face. In the Paladin tree, we have the two-handed weapon specialization. We talked about this last time as well. Just more damage, more critical strike chance. Really no flaws with this. You could swap this out, but I don't think you'd be tough to find one you'd get as much value with. You know, the physical damage specifically for our bleeds I think it's just good. I don't have too much to add to that. On the rogue side, we got a few rogue abilities, of course, Garrot and Rupture in the Assassination tree. I have 1 point in Malice. I forgot I had this point in Malice. There's really nothing I would super want to throw a point in. I mean, I accept the extra critical we get from it. Would there be hypothetically something better? I mean, possible. Nothing immediately comes to mind that I could use one talent point on that's going to be better than this, because this is giving us a chance to crit with our melee abilities. It's also giving us a chance to crit with explosive trap and immolation trap. So just kind of good on both sides of the world there. In the combat tree, we got Kick just to have an interrupt since we were doing PvP. We also got Blade Flurry, increases your melee attack speed by 20%. In addition, attack strike an additional nearby opponent. I've already talked about this in the last video, but this is a great spell for when you're looking for additional AoE damage as a melee character. So I definitely recommend it if anyone has a melee build they're working on that doesn't have that little ounce of AoE that most builds really strive with. In the subtlety tree, we did get serrated blades. This will allow us to use Garrot sometimes outside of stealth. Of course, since we're not running stealth, it's important to be able to use Garrot at all. So main reason why we picked that up, but it also is going to be ignoring some armor and increases the damage dealt by a Rupture. Now, Hemorrhage is great. It's going to be increasing any physical damage dealt to the target by up to 13. Now, that is a debuff. Every time we use Hemorrhage, it applies. So, of course, Hemorrhage is basically like a Sinister Strike otherwise, but it applies that debuff. It's going to make our bleeds do more damage. That's why we picked it up. In the Shaman tree, we got Rock Biter Weapon. Maybe reasonable to switch out with something like Flame Tongue or even Wind Fury, but I feel like most of our scaling is going to be with that attack power, so that's why I have the Rock Biter. Now, we talked about most of these abilities before: the Mental Quickness, the Mental Dexterity, and the Thundering Strikes. All really good abilities that will help you a lot when making a hybrid build. And because Explosive Trap and Immolation are going to be fire damage, or I should specify Immolation Trap, both of those are going to be fire damage, it's important we have some of that hybrid utility. Now, in the Storm Strike side of things, I got this for one reason, and again, it's that epic enchant we've talked about. And then while we were already there, just 100% chance to give us some of that base damage when we use Storm Strike is nothing terrible. I mean, I'm a really big fan of that. It also is going to be increasing the fire and frost damage your target takes. So your target being our target. And if our goal is to keep that immolation trap or that explosive trap up, ticking pretty much all the time, this is free damage for that as well. So not only is it increasing our bleeds, it's increasing our fire damage. Finally, in the warrior tree, we got Charge and we got Rend. Obviously, for the epic enchant I was talking about, you need Charge, you need Rend, you need Whirlwind, which we got on the next page. In the talents, we got Deep Wounds. Again, another bleed. Deep Wounds is definitely something that the damage will add up over the course of a dungeon. Then you have Trauma. Your melee critical strikes increase the effectiveness of bleed effects on the target by 30% for 1 minute. The capstone bonus being your Rend benefits from melee haste. We don't really care about that aspect of it, but the melee critical strikes increasing the effectiveness of our bleeds by 30%. That's really fucking good. That's really good. So obviously we needed that. Blood Frenzy we also picked up, increasing the melee attack speed by 4%. In addition, our Rend and Deep Wounds abilities also increase all physical damage caused to that target by 4%. Again, I'm going to reread that last line. In addition, your Rend and Deep Wound abilities increases the physical damage caused to that target by 4%. Why? I don't know why you would not ever use it. Use the ability. It's great. Like, what's the downside? What's the downside? 4%? You tell me 4%? I don't even care about the melee attack speed, but 4% increase all physical abilities, that's really good for us. The Fury Tree, I talked about Whirlwind, so we picked that up. I also got the improved Whirlwind because, again, AoE damage. And then finally, I have Rampage. This was a fun build. I was happy to do this build. That being said, I'm also happy to have the chance to now work on a new build. I really wanted the DPS to be a little higher, and again, most of that is probably gear if I had to guess. So if you end up going a similar build to this, or maybe you make a few changes and you're doing 3k 4k 5k DPS, definitely let me know. I had a comment. I may have already talked about this. I had a comment on the Corrupted Bear build when I said, oh, I'm not sure if this build can do mythics. Someone commented and said, oh, I'm doing mythics, and I still remember that. That was at least a month ago. Felt really good to hear that that build is still doing well. I mean, I know I don't have any ownership of the build. He is probably using his own talents and, you know, whatever, but it's still nice to hear, I guess, even though it may be unwarranted. But thanks again for watching the video. I hope you guys have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're watching this, and bye-bye.